Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition, some more grim financial news coming from the state, with budget troubles trickling down to our schools and social services.
And a school trustee unwraps his plan for helping San Diego unify through the budget crisis. And a breathtaking sight at UC San Diego where art and engineering combine today.
KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Ferrian.
And I'm Dwayne Brown.
We begin tonight with news that two former San Diego redevelopment executives have pleaded guilty to embezzlement charges. Those two officials headed the SEDC, the Southeast San Diego Economic Development Corporation. Carolyn Smith and Dante Diacap were charged earlier this year with embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. Tonight, our media partner, voiceofsandiego.org, says Smith and Diacap have changed their pleas and are each pleading guilty to one count of embezzlement.
San Diego City schools are facing a budget shortfall of more than $100 million next year. Today, schools trustee Scott Barnett released his plan intended to save the district millions. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert has been following this story and joins us from the news center. So, Kyla, correct me if I'm wrong here, but haven't we heard about this plan before? What's new?
That's right. Barnett first released a plan to cut the district's budget last month, and that plan included a 10% salary reduction for district employees and a requirement that they pay in a contribution for anything more than the district's basic health care coverage. So today he unveiled revised details of that plan that held on to that health care contribution and included a sliding scale of pay cuts that would add up to a 9% reduction in the district's salary costs. So those pay cuts ranged from 4% for full-time employees making less than $40,000 a year up to 15% for those making more than $160,000 a year. And several people have said that the district should wait until we know whether there will be mid-year budget cuts from the state before they make any specific plans like this. But here's what Barnett had to say about why he was unveiling these details today.
The superintendent's proposal to deal with even the best case scenario includes selling land. It includes keeping the school year at 175 days instead of 180. It includes potential for significant hundreds of layoffs. That's the best case scenario. So we can't afford to wait.
So, Kyla, what are some of the hurdles to putting such a plan in place?
Well, first, Barnett would have to get at least 2 other board members to vote for his proposal at their November 29th meeting, which it isn't clear that he can do. Then they would have to open contract negotiations with the district's 5 employee unions, which 4 of those unions refused to do last year. And then finally, Barnett's plan also includes placing a parcel tax on the 2012 ballot that, if approved, would actually reverse these cuts that he's suggesting. But as we know, San Diego voters rejected a parcel tax for schools just last year.
You're right about that. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert.
A new report says San Diego County's annual required contribution to its employee pension system nearly tripled over a decade. The report is from the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. It says in the year 2000, the county chipped in $98 million to pay for worker retirements. By fiscal year 2010, that number grew to $287 million. The study says those pension contributions made up 3.5% of the county general fund in 2000 and went up to nearly 9% by 2010. The association says county costs rose because of investment losses and because of retroactive benefit increases in 2002.
San Diego City Council has approved a $200,000 settlement for its former deputy director of economic development. Scott Kessler had sued for wrongful termination. He said he was fired as retaliation for cooperating with a law enforcement investigation into conflict of interest claims. While the investigation never led to any charges, Kessler claimed the mayor's office was angry about his cooperation. Mayor Jerry Sanders has said Kessler was simply a victim of city layoffs.
The newest report on the San Diego County real estate market says sales went up a tiny bit last month. but they're still far below average. MDA DataQuick compared October numbers for this year and last year, and in 2011, total sales were up by just 9 homes. The median price dropped by nearly $20,000. DataQuick says low prices and low mortgage rates are keeping resale activity slightly ahead of last year, but sales are still 25 to 30% below average.
A state agency has just raised the ante to try and get more folks to buy green cars. The California Air Resources Board has tripled its clean vehicle rebate budget. And the Poway man was the first to get a check from the now $15 million fund. Kim Adelman got a $2,500 rebate for buying a Nissan Leaf. County officials say incentive programs are one reason why San Diego's air is the cleanest it's been in 50 years.
The incentive program is a real significant part of our overall program of reducing greenhouse gases, reducing air pollution throughout the state of California.
Electric car buyers are also eligible for a $7,500 federal rebate. While one state board is increasing its budget, the overall budget picture is not looking so bright. Joanne is talking with her guest about it over at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
The State Finance Department released some numbers yesterday that indicate cuts to education and social services could be on their way. California is collecting less money in income tax and sales revenue, more than $1 billion less than it expected this time of year. And that could trigger the cuts in January. Joining me now is Marnie Cox, the chief economist for the San Diego Association of Governments. Marnie, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you, Joanne.
So when the state passed its budget earlier this year, there was a trigger mechanism built into that. What did that mean?
Well, there's two things, maybe a little bit of background. When the state passed its budget, it came off of a year where sales tax revenue and personal income had grown dramatically over the previous year. And so it felt comfortable saying that it would expect a couple $1 billion worth of increase in revenues from those two sources for this fiscal year. Unfortunately, those haven't arrived. And so the state now faces a budget cutback midway through the year. And it knew in advance that it may not be able to hit those higher revenue amounts. And so it set in motion, it said, okay, we've identified these things, we'll cut back. But if that doesn't prove to be enough, well, then we'll have to cut further, right? And the further cuts would dig into the school systems as well as the University of California system.
So the trigger was really $1 billion, wasn't it? That if we fall short by more than $1 billion, these cuts go into place.
That's correct.
So what the numbers that were released, what did they tell us?
Well, they said that for sure they won't hit the billion, and now people are wondering how much more than $1 billion they won't hit. And given the current sales tax growth rates, the expectations for income for the rest of the year, it looks like it'll be worse. Could be 50% worse than the expectations.
So the largest source of revenue for the state is income tax, and then the second largest, I think, is sales taxes, what I was reading.
Corporate taxes.
And corporate taxes.
Yeah, those are the three largest.
So, and the largest decrease or drop in terms of what they were expecting is in income tax, and then second is sales tax?
Yes, and the reason for the income tax, the previous year we'd had a stock market rally, and a lot of people had earned money off of that, and that money then is taxed as normal income. This time around, the stock market has done the opposite. Well, you could say it's gone up and down a lot, hasn't really moved much at all, so we won't see the same kinds of gains that we saw last year. Also last year, the retail sales, for example, here in San Diego County, up 8%, and the state had double-digit gains. Unfortunately, incomes haven't kept pace. A lot of other negative news has come out to retract confidence, and so those sales tax numbers appear to be leveling out a little bit. We've had some good news in October. The numbers nationwide were just released, up to 0.5%. On an annual basis, that would be about a 6% increase, still below what happened last year, but a healthy one. Question is whether or not we can continue at that rate.
We're going into the holiday season. Isn't this the big time of year where people spend money? Could we see a big bump up, and could that save us in the end?
Oh, absolutely. However, even the retail centers that look at these trends have said that they expect this year's rate of growth to be half what it was last year. Last year was about 5.4% increase. This year they're expecting about 2.8, somewhere in that neighborhood. So they already expect it will be slower. I'm expecting that it could actually end up worse than last year. We're going into a lot of headwinds here at the end of the year. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, some of it which you mentioned already with the state cutbacks, potential teachers losing their jobs, other kinds of things that are going on. There's already problems in Europe. It looks like it's headed into a recession, which means, you know, the U.S. will be impacted by that. The debt super committee trying to figure out what to do with the debt. Not real good news out of them yet. So there's a lot of negative things, that headwinds, so to speak, that the economy has to work its way through.
So, and doesn't California have a double whammy too? California doesn't collect sales tax on online sales, does it?
Correct. And in fact, one of the things we found out this time from the surveys is that, first of all, 70% of the people felt that they would spend less this year. Secondly, over 80% said that they would shop online in order to keep them inside their budget. That compares with about a 54% people who used internet last year. So the number of people who will shop online and buy probably online as opposed to retail centers will increase dramatically.
So our classic trickle down, you spend less money, government collects in taxes, they cut back to local services.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Marnie Cox, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joanne.
Our series on aging continues tonight with a look at the difficult decisions people face at the end of life. One of those decisions involves hospice care. We'll take a look at the myths and realities in just a moment on KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS. At 8, a rare portrait of one of the 20th century's best-known and loved entertainers, known as the Clown Prince of Denmark, Victor Borge, the funniest man in the world. Then at 10, the 65-year effort to identify, prosecute, and punish the 20th century's most notorious murderers on Nazi Hunt. And at 11, the French still call it their Pearl Harbor, Churchill's deadliest decision on Secrets of the Dead. That's tonight on KPBS.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news and public affairs for the 8th year in a row. Trust. The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next News Hour, the latest news, analysis, and in-depth reporting you've come to expect from our team. Join us tomorrow for the PBS News Hour.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
The Centers for Disease Control says nearly half of all deaths in the U.S. take place in a hospital. That's despite the fact hospice care is widely available and covered by Medicare. As part of our Envision series on aging in San Diego, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg takes a look at how San Diego's oldest hospice is trying to raise awareness about end-of-life options.
On the third floor of a Mission Valley department store, an educational program for older adults hosts a session on hospice care. Speaker Ken Lowe explains the basic philosophy.
No one should live in pain. No one should live in fear. No one should die feeling alone.
Most patients in hospice care are 65 and older. Hospice is designed for people who are given less than 6 months to live. It focuses on managing symptoms, relieving pain, and providing emotional and spiritual support. Medicare and private insurers pick up the tab. Lowe says despite these benefits, he's constantly surprised at how little people know about hospice.
They don't have a clue. They don't even have a clue as to what hospice care is. In other words, what it means to them as a caregiver. They just don't. It's amazing.
One of the challenges with spreading the word about hospice care is that it deals with dying, and that's an uncomfortable subject for most Americans. That's not the case in some other parts of the world.
Well, there are many countries, many of them developing countries, where Death seems to be embraced more as an integral part of life, and it's acknowledged more by the society. It's harder in America, I think, for many of us to acknowledge that part of life.
Dr. Oppenheim says that unease in talking about death fuels some common myths about hospice care.
There are misperceptions that when people go to hospice that somehow death is accelerated, and in fact we have a growing evidence base that people live longer with hospice care in the setting of terminal illness.
The process of placing someone in hospice care begins with a referral from a doctor. But believe it or not, some physicians have a tough time bringing up the subject.
And I think sometimes the patient or family member ends up asking the question, and we would love to see physicians developing more comfort and bringing the topic up. It's really what the patients and families want.
The San Diego Hospice has an institute dedicated to training doctors in palliative medicine, which focuses on relieving suffering and enhancing quality of life. Over the years, the institute has produced dozens of graduates who are now teaching other physicians.
The San Diego Hospice cares for about 1,200 people a day in their homes throughout San Diego County. The hospice also has the capacity to treat up to 24 patients at its inpatient care center in Hillcrest.
After a brief stint at the center, 79-year-old Sadie Jacobs will go back home. That's where the vast majority of hospice patients spend their final days. Jacobs says if she could talk to people who are wondering about hospice,
I tell them that's the best place they ever could be in their life. They don't have to worry about themselves. People's here concerned about you and not themselves. And I tell them they feel comfortable. It's the best place they ever could go besides heaven.
That story from Kenny Goldberg. There are 16 different hospice programs in San Diego County. Our next story in our aging series looks at how the economic recession is impacting retirement communities. You can see that story on Thursday night.
Earlier this month, National Public Radio reported on an Environmental Protection Agency watch list of hundreds of industrial plants potentially emitting toxic pollutants. Joining me to talk about how San Diego County fits into that watch list is Bob Card, the control officer for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District. Thanks for being here, Bob.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now, did San Diego County end up making this list?
No, we did not. We have no facilities on EPA's watch list because, frankly, as we do inspections and find violations, we work quickly to mitigate those violations, to abate them, and we don't let things languish.
So maybe bring us up to speed in terms of the list. Why does the EPA keep this watch list?
Well, the watch list has a number of companies on it that have been chronic violators who have been pretty much untouched. I understand that the key is 9 months of time before they get on that list. San Diego doesn't do that. When we issue, for example, a notice of violation to a company who's violating our rules or their permits, we take immediate action to follow up on that violation to bring them back into compliance so that their emissions are reduced as quickly as possible and that they correct the problems. And we settle those cases quite rapidly. And so we will never make that watch list. We just don't operate like that.
So you've been doing this for 30 years. Why is that? Why is San Diego County able to do this? I mean, you've worked in other counties. Why is that?
Well, you know, in California in general, as well as San Diego, we're pretty aggressive on this. We both educate companies, and so they prevent the emissions in the first place. But we all, and San Diego runs an aggressive program. We do inspections, thousands per year. We follow up on things, and we make sure that people comply. And I've actually seen great cooperation here from industry, frankly, because they want to have clean air, just like we all do. And the fact that we are the watchdog, I think, really pays off.
So does the Air Control Board sort of respond to complaints, or are you proactive? What is it that you do?
Well, we're proactive. We're a regulatory agency. Under federal and state law, we're required to permit companies that emit air pollutants. We're required to inspect them. They have to follow the rules. We also respond to citizen complaints and take action. Most recently, the Neptune Crematorium is a great example where we solved a problem where they were smoking out the community, creating odors. We started getting complaints in November of 2010, and then we had the situation fully solved by April 28th of 2011 when we pulled their permit to operate via our hearing board, stopping them from operating.
So you have that ability to pull a permit?
Well, our hearing board does, and what we did was we took legal action to them, presented our case because we had numerous citizen complaints of odor and smoke and, frankly, glowing embers coming out of the stack, and we solved the problem because the company wouldn't rectify it on their own. So we had to go forward with what is really a very harsh action. I don't like putting people out of business. That's not our role. Our role is to, coexist peacefully, so to speak. But in this case, they just weren't doing what they needed to do, and we had no choice but to go forward.
Are most of your complaints sort of from the average citizen, or do they come from communities, local governments?
Well, mostly it's average citizens. We get about 600 complaints per year, and we respond very quickly, hopefully the same day, but no later than 24 hours generally, and we try to mitigate the problems, whether it's smoke from a barbecue or odor nuisances, things like that. We respond quickly, identify the source, and then work with the source to get them back into compliance as soon as possible, because every day someone violates the law is considered for a penalty. So people have motivation to comply.
Didn't we? There was a study not too long ago, though. San Diego County didn't come out so clean. Didn't we have a couple of days where we sort of surpassed the allowable limit? Ozone. It was sort of ozone and a couple other things.
Well, for particulate matter or dust, in a more simple term, we're in attainment with the federal standard, which is what we're trying to do. For ozone, or smog, as we all call it, we think, as of the end of October, we're in attainment of what they call the 1997 standard. Admittedly, that's 3 years late, but we have clean air. The last 3 years have been the cleanest on record in the 56-year history of the Air Pollution Control District. We have a new standard we face, which is a lower number, a tougher grading scale, but we'll only be marginally non-attainment for that. And so we're going to continue as we're doing to pass rules where needed, to make sure we're doing inspections, and we will clean up the air. Big problem here is motor vehicles, with 75% of the emissions that we have to deal with being generated by automobiles, trucks, cars, you name it, on the road.
So that's our biggest polluter.
That's
cars.
Our biggest polluter, mobile sources, as we call them, and it could include, and it will include off-road vehicles. And diesel is a part of that in terms of the health impacts, because diesel is a known carcinogen.
Bob Card, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Art and engineering come together at UC San Diego. An unusual new exhibit was installed today. We'll give you an up-close look in just a moment. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Welcome to the bizarre realm of tiny atoms and particles.
There's a sense in which things don't like to be tied down to just one location.
Make a quantum leap into a startling new reality, the fabric of the cosmos.
Wednesday at 9 on KPBS.
Throughout its 50-year history, KPBS's news and public affairs programs have challenged conventional thinking. We're investigating issues before they reach a crisis. Our world is much more than just today's headlines, and KPBS helps all of us explore what's next so that we can take action now.
Masterpiece mystery.
Sherlock Holmes.
We're obviously looking at a suicide.
It does seem the only explanation of all the facts.
Wrong.
It's one possible explanation of some of the facts.
Can you not keep doing this, please?
Sherlock on Masterpiece Mystery.
Sunday at 9 on KPBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. Yesterday, reporter Kyla Calvert told us about how the national trend of rising student debt is affecting college students here in San Diego. Students who graduated in 2010 owed about 5% more than students who graduated the previous year. We asked you, should we be worried about increasing student debt? Well, we've got several comments on Facebook. Eric says, it's something we should have been concerned about 15 years ago. It's something we should be panicking about now. Dimitri says, I was concerned about student debt back when I was in school. That's why I worked my way through UCSD and graduated with about $5,000 of loans. And Nate says, if there is a question about debt and the concern we should have about it, the answer is always yes, and very. Debt is a plague. Well, if you want to comment, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or email me directly, jferrian@kpbs.org. I always love hearing from you. And now here's Dwayne with the recap of tonight's top stories.
Two San Diego redevelopment officials are pleading guilty to one charge each of embezzlement. Carolyn Smith and Dante Diacap headed SEDC, the Southeastern San Diego Redevelopment Corporation. VoiceofSanDiego.org is reporting the change in plea. The two were charged earlier this year, you may recall, with embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. San Diego Unified Trustee Scott Barnett unveiled details of an austerity plan to save the district money today. He's calling for pay cuts to reduce salary spending by 9%. Barnett's plan uses a sliding scale with higher paid employees taking bigger cuts. The plan also calls for voter approval of a parcel tax to restore salaries. The county's annual contribution to its employee pension system nearly tripled between 2000 and 2010. The figures come from the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. The report says the county had to chip in $98 million in 2000 to pay for worker retirements. That figure grew to $287 million a decade later. And the latest report on the county's housing market says sales were up just a little last month, but prices dropped by nearly 6%. The Fallen Star has landed on the campus of UC San Diego in La Jolla. Its arrival drew hundreds of onlookers to marvel at this unusual but not unique piece of public art. We're on the UCSD campus in front of the School of Engineering, and what all these people are looking at is this house perched 100 feet in the air. It's a piece of artwork that's symbolic of two things: displacement and home. Like the uneasy feeling of sticking out in a new place, this artwork represents a new home for many students who've come from far away.
I think that's pretty cool that they brought that here too. I mean, the engineering side of campus, where there's a lot of immigrant students that are especially engineers, so I think it's rather fitting.
As a sophomore, I came into college last year, and I didn't really know what to expect and was a little scared, as any other freshman would be. And I found, like this house has, I found my home here, and it's really been inviting.
Even the inside of the home is tilted and makes you feel a little disoriented, much like students feel when they arrive from elsewhere. The Korean artist Do-Ho Sa has been working on home spaces for quite a while, but nothing like this.
It's a house that's landed. Where have you ever seen anything like that, a house on a roof? And there'll be a garden, a roof garden that you can go up and visit, and that's going to be another amazing addition to the Stewart collection.
Actually, people have seen something similar. Artist Erwin Worm had a house hoisted atop a Vienna art museum about 6 years ago. The difference, Worm's house was upside down. For a comparison of the Vienna work and the new one at UCSD, go to KPBS.org. And you can watch any and comment on any of the stories, of course, you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hope you have a great evening. We leave you with a look at the forecast.